we have Bitwise, who I think is the first digital asset manager I had heard of ever, but maybe that's not the case for you guys. But Bitwise has withdrawn the application for its Bitcoin futures exchange traded fund, or ETF, citing what it said are the cost and complexity of such ETFs, and that the company will instead focus its spot Bitcoin ETF, filing this already in the pipeline. Matt Hogan, who is the CIO of Bitwise, sent out a tweet thread the other day that outlined the rationale for withdrawing, citing a lot of fancy trading words that Wall Streeters have created over the year, like contango, which we don't need to go into. But the short of it is this, that investors don't want this. And the fact that the first Bitcoin ETF was approved as a futures ETF is maddening. It was immediately clear that it was onerous, provided nothing to the retail investor, that the SEC was so hell-bent on defending. Yet it was really celebrated as a success on some of the fringes of even Bitcoin Twitter. Now it's becoming obvious that investors would rather have a regular way spot ETF to allocate to. And I submit that the Bitcoin ETF is not really the spirit of what Bitcoin stands for, and that is more of a way to get a USD price exposure to the asset. But in a way, it is still an important piece of the full financial puzzle. As long as there are investors with a lot of money out there, we'll continue to have investors who are focused on getting USD returns by whatever means is necessary. If it so happens to use Bitcoin, I'm not sure the majority of money managers care. Where the potential benefit in the long term for Bitcoin is there more name recognition. You know, this is $1 trillion asset that people are excited about now rather than just scoffing at. And on top of that, we're going to have money managers go down the rabbit hole, and we might orange pill a couple more big investors along the way, as Bitcoin tends to do. So that'd be really exciting. I don't know if what you guys would want to flash onto there, but I'll open up to the group.
It's always awkward when you open up to the group, so I'll take it.
You think you would have learned that by now, George. You got to call on someone.
I'm a rookie, not that.
I call on the audience. Please send us your questions and comments about Bitwise. I mean, it is interesting. I agree with a lot of what you say, George. ETFs are not in the spirit of Bitcoin, but one thing that they do is there are incredible tax advantages to an ETF. So people can invest in these as part of their IRA, and then they don't pay capital gains on increases. So I love the idea that Bitcoin has come along and can help people safeguard their assets in whatever way, that takes shape. Obviously, I think it's much better to hold the asset itself. I encourage people to hold the asset itself, but you should also be taking advantage of all of these other financial tools that are out there, because the economy is looking wacky. And it's interesting also that when they cite filing costs and complexity and all of that as the reason for pulling this back, it makes me really angry. Like, we should be having all this competition in financial tooling. We should have whatever company, wants, offer things, and then the market decides which things you want to get involved with. And instead, government makes you jump through so many hoops. It just becomes so difficult. Often it's the people with the best connections that get approved rather than the better product or whatever. So it is disappointing to see people get deterred. This is a visible example of this happening, but it happens constantly in the crypto space. Companies that decide just not to create a product because it's too complex. Companies that decide to move offshore because it's too complex in the US. Like, we're killing innovation here with how tightly and stringently we are controlling these financial environments. So it's very disappointing to see. But Will, I saw your hand go up, so I'll throw to you.
Yeah, if I had a Bitcoin for every time one of these firms pulled or put forward an application for an ETF, I would not be on this show. I'd be on an island somewhere enjoying life. I just, like, this happens all the time. It's pretty normal. I think just this kind of speaks to the market conditions right now. Everyone's pretty fed up with the SEC. They're tired of this. Also, this product, like, it did well on the first day, but I've seen a lot of complaints about the BITO product itself going forward. Like, is it really in investors' interest to be holding a Bitcoin futures contract? It doesn't necessarily mean that it is, just because it's a pretty complex instrument. It's probably the wrong instrument for most people to have in their portfolio. And that's why people want the spot Bitcoin ETF. But Jen, I'll give it to you as we kind of close up here.
Just on the topic of the SEC, I wanted to say, when I was at NFT NYC, I was talking to an XDC regulator, and they said that they've always wanted to say this in a public forum, but they couldn't because they would no longer have a job. And so they said that interacting with the SEC is like being engaged to someone who will not marry you and will also not break up with you. So I just wanted to say that for that
that's
person.
so beautiful. No, that's really beautiful. I love that.